lesson 2 of topic 2. Today we're talking about properties of operations. So again, if you remember topic 2, we're talking about variables, we're talking about expressions, and we're talking about properties. So today we are talking about properties of operations. Yesterday we talked about expressions, and remember we learned that an algebraic expression is when we have at least one variable and at least one operation. So an example would be a plus 2. So we have a as our variable and addition is our operation. So we're going to be kind of expanding that idea today. But before we start, I'm going to put the problem of the day on the screen, and then when you finish that, if you attempt it, go ahead and go to your vocabulary section, and we are going to put down a few vocabulary terms, and then we will get into the lesson after that. So I will see you in a second. Jenny made a rectangular cake and divided it into 12 equal pieces. How many straight cuts must she make to get 24 equal pieces? Commutative property of addition. The order in which numbers are added does not change the sum of the numbers. Commutative property of multiplication. The order in which numbers are multiplied does not change the product of the numbers. Associative property of addition. The way the numbers are grouped does not affect the sum. Associative property of multiplication. The way numbers are grouped does not affect the product. Identity property of addition. The sum of any number in 0 is that number. Identity property of multiplication. The product of a number and 1 is that number. We just covered a lot of definitions, so I'm going to simplify them. Think of commutative as a community. The order doesn't matter, everyone's sharing, and it doesn't make a difference. Associative, who do you associate with? For this property though, everyone is friends and the groups don't matter. So the grouping doesn't matter on multiplication or addition. And identity properties. How can we keep the number its own identity? We don't want to be different. Today we're going to continue our talk in expressions. No, not facial expressions, but we talked about mathematical expressions. So looking at numbers like 2 plus a. So it's an algebraic expression, right? We're going to use properties of numbers to rewrite these expressions. But what I want you to do is think of some activities that you do every day. Think about brushing your teeth. What would happen if you put your toothpaste on your toothbrush after you brush your teeth? Would that be very effective? Probably not. You might run into some problems there. So daily activities that you do, putting your socks on and then your shoes, right? If you did your shoes and then your socks, it might not have as good of an outcome. But something that might not make the order matter is putting on your shoes regarding your left and your right shoe, right? So every day you do things, sometimes the order matters, sometimes it doesn't. So operations in math are the same way. Sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't. We're going to look at when we can change that up. So that's kind of what we're getting into today. What I'd like you to do now is turn to your PBIL section, and I'm going to put some problems on the screen, and we're going to work through them together. Take a look at these expressions that are on the board. What I want you to do is don't worry about copying them down into your PBIL section unless you want to. But what I want you to do is look at them and think about which ones of these will always be true and which ones will not always be true. So looking at that first one, 12 plus a equals a plus 12. Can we plug in any number for a and have that always be true? Well, let's do that as an example. 12 plus, let's say that we're going to plug in 1 for a. 12 plus 1 is 13, and 1 plus 12 is 13. So that works. But let's do another number just to make sure. 12 plus, let's put in a 7 for a. 12 plus 7 is 19. And 7 plus 12 is 19. So 19 equals 19. We could do this a few more times and double check and make sure that all numbers are going to work. So what I want you to do is go through this list of expressions, and for each one, I want you to just tell me if it is always true or not always true. Then I want you to write below it how you decided that, and we'll talk about that in class. So go ahead and pause the video and work on those now. But make sure you think about all numbers, not just one for the variables. Hopefully you got a chance to look at the problems, and I'm going to go through and give you the answers now. Number one, that's an example of the commutative property of addition. So that one is always true. Number two is not an example of any of the properties we've talked about. So that one is not always true. Number three is an example of the associative property of addition. So this one is always true. Number four can be kind of tricky because it looks like it might be an identity property, but in order to be the identity property, that 0 would either have to be a 1 for multiplication, or that multiplication sign would need to be addition. So number 4 is not always true. Number 5 has two different types of operations, multiplication and addition. When using our properties, we can't mix the signs, so number 5 is not always true. Number 6 is the identity property of addition, so this one is always true. So that's going to be your lesson for tonight. We're not going to do the guided practice. We're going to go ahead and do that in class because I'd like to kind of explain that as we're going through each problem a little bit better, and I think we can do that in person. So go ahead and take your quiz anyways, see how you do. Email me your score. Make sure you just put the score in the subject. You can put whatever you want in the content, but make sure that your score is in the subject. So email me your scores. We'll talk in class tomorrow, and I will see you then.